Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm the Jacobian Dev, and in this video I'll be going through how you can quickly create a Revit installer which you can share for testing using Inno Setup compiler. In the Jacobian Dev tab, I've got the Jacobian plugin set up. This is the plugin created in the button and tab video. I've added a link to the video in the description. I'll be using Inno Setup compiler to create the installer. I've also added the link to download the installer file in the description. The plugin project builds to the Revit add-ins folder, which you can find in the app data folder under the roaming and Autodesk folders. The button icon can be found in the resources folder. To get started, I'll navigate to the Revit sample plugin folder. Next, I'll add a connector file, which will tell Inno Setup compiler where to compile the installer files. I'll copy the add-in file. I'll then rename it by adding connector as a suffix. I'll open the connector file. I'll then add the path to the Jacobian folder found in the program files. This is where the installer files will be copied when we run the setup. You can change the folder name to any name you require. Just make sure to note down the folder since it will be used when creating the installer. I'll save the changes and navigate to the Visual Studio project. I'll set the build solution to release and proceed to build a solution. This copies the DLL file to the release folder, which we can find in the bin folder. Before I create the installer, I'll navigate to the Revit add-ins folder. I'll then delete all the DLL files so that there's no issues when the plugin is installed. Next, I'll create the installer by navigating to the Inno Setup compiler. Here I'll create a new script using the script wizard. I'll then add the application information. I'll add the application name as Jacobian plugin, the application version as 0.1, the app publisher as Jacobian Tech, and you can add the application website URL if you have it. I'll uncheck the option to allow the user to change the application folder. Next, I need to specify the application folder name as Jacobian, which is the folder specified in the add-in connector. Next, we need to add the application files. I'll check the application doesn't have a main executable file. I'll select on Add Files. I'll add the plugin DLL found in the release folder. I'll then add the plugin connector. And lastly, I'll add the icon image in the resources folder. Next, I'll specify the application shortcuts. I'll uncheck the allow user to change the start menu folder name. And I'll check the create and uninstall shortcut option. Next, I'll add the license file, which will be an MIT license file. I'll also add the README file so it can be shown to the user before installation. Next, I'll set the install mode as administrative install mode. I'll then set the language to English. Next, I'll specify the installer output folder. I'll create a new folder in my documents, named Jacobian Plugin Installer. I'll set the installer base file name as Jacobian Plugin. I'll then set the installer icon to the Jacobian icon in the resources folder. You can also specify an installer password if required. Next, I'll make sure the Use Compiler Derivatives options is checked. And lastly, I'll select Finish to exit the script wizard. I'll select No for the Compile New Script Now option. Before the script is compiled, there are a few items that need to be added. I'll set the destination of the add-in connector to the Revit add-ins folder for the 2025 version. I'll then set the destination directory as resources for the Jacobian icon image. Lastly, I'll run the script to create the setup file. I won't run the setup as yet. I'll navigate to the Jacobian plugin installer folder where the setup was saved. And here you can see that the file was created. I'll run the setup file. I'll then proceed to install the plugin. Once that's done, I'll navigate to the Jacobian folder in the program files. And here we can see that the installer files were successfully added. Lastly, I'll open Revit. I'll then start a new project. I'll navigate to the Jacobian Dev tab, and here we can see that the plugin was successfully installed. That should be it for this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.